Hi everybody, this is Ryan. I'm here with my second episode of Ryan's Film Analysis. I hope you enjoyed my last one that I did on Eyes Wide Shut, and I hope you liked it, even if you don't like the movie itself. I hope I gave you another perspective on it to where you might be able to appreciate it and still not like it. I love the film, and I stand by it, and it was definitely an enjoyment doing it. But I'm excited today because today, as you can see by the different angle, I tried to get at the poster more, and the other one's behind me, is The Godfather, which is my all-time favorite movie. I think it's a perfect movie. I think it's flawless. A little backstory on why it's my favorite. I think when I was in fourth or fifth grade, my parents were divorced, and my mom had the movies, and when I was staying at her apartment one night, she was watching them, and I was watching the TV, and I was like, man, this movie is awesome. Like, I thought this was when the VHS were gold, and it had, Vito Corleone and, on the front. And I was like, these movies are insane. Like there's something about it that, I really want to watch them. And so I watched it with my mom. I had no clue what the heck I watched. Like, I couldn't even tell you the plot, but I was addicted to watching it. And then a couple of years went by, and didn't see it again. I was at a Blockbuster, I think, and I rented the first one. And I watched it, and I loved it. I understood the plot because I actually paid attention to that part because I was a little bit older. And ever since then, it has been my favorite movie. Yes, there's some other movies out there that are very different, and they're more creative technically, and I could also say that Taxi Driver is one of my favorite movies, and that's a perfect movie. But I'll always say The Godfather is my #1 movie because ever since I was in 4th or 5th grade, that is the only movie that I've continued to love even more. And I had just as I'm still incredibly entertained by it. I'm still just in awe about how perfect it is and all the hidden things that are in it, and a few I'm going to talk about. And it just had the longest lasting impression. Of course, I grew up with movies like, Back to the Future and stuff, and those are all great films. But from a film making and, more of a film guru perspective, The Godfather has always been my #1 favorite film. And that's closely followed by the second film. And the third film I thought was good, but that was about it. I don't consider it. I think the first and the second film, I think, are flawless. There's not a single mistake. The third film, I think, is completely flawed, but it's watchable. It's still good. It's a nice conclusion to the story, but I think they could have done without it. So it's not considered one of my favorite movies. I just like it. So let's go ahead and get started. Today, I'm not going to be analyzing the heck out of this movie, but there is one thing that I saw. This is going to be I think I researched a lot of this, but the sources that I used, so this isn't completely original. I did research it, and I always wondered, if you watch The Godfather, the first half of the movie, I would say the first hour and a half, you don't really see Al Pacino as much as the second half. And I always was like, you know what? Why is that? And so I started doing some deeper and deeper, research on it and figured out why. Well, what I came across in some notes that I saw was the narrative structure. And the movie takes a drastic narrative turn about an hour and a half through it. And I'll tell you why. The movie opens up. Everybody knows the famous shot of Bonacera, talking to at first you don't know who he's talking to, you just see a guy talking. The camera zooms out, and you realize that he's talking to a man who's sitting in a chair. We all know that's The Godfather. I'm not going to do a big plot summary because I want everybody to watch the film, but for a few seconds during that opening shot, Bonacera is looking at you, the viewer, as if you're Vito Corleone. And that sets the structure of that part of the movie. everything that happens, you don't really see Michael a lot. You know, he's always in the background, and you know, the plot still happens. I mean, one of the biggest plot points in the movie is when Sollozzo is refused protection by Don Corleone. And Michael's not even there, but yet Michael is a huge figure in the saga and in the rest of the movie. Well, that's because there's two narrative structures, and I think it's important to look at, and it'll help you appreciate the film even better. The beginning of the movie, like I said, you're watching the movie through, I feel like that sets it up. The main character, the narrative at that point, is everything revolves around Vito Corleone, Marlon Brando's character. So, you know, he gets shot, and you start to see people through his perspective. And when Michael is in the scenes, you think of Michael as this more, you know, supporting character. He's kind of a small guy and stuff. And you think of Clemenza and, you know, all them, and Tessio, bigger guys. You know, those are the guys that are in charge. Well, where the plot turns, it begins to turn in the hospital when Michael, you know, after refusing the business for so long, finally told his dad, just because he wanted to protect him, I'm with you now. But the most noticeable part that the narrative changed is if you look in the scene that, in fact, here's a picture. If you look in the scene when you're watching it, and there's dialogue going between Michael and Sollozzo in the cafe, Louis' Cafe at the Bronx, as Tessio says, there's one shot for, you know, you're seeing most of that scene and conversation, you know, over Michael's shoulder, kind of, and there's one shot where all of a sudden it's no longer over Michael's shoulder. It's like Sollozzo is talking to you, and that is when the narrative shifts, and the movie ceased to be completely about Don Vito Corleone and begins to be the story of Michael. Because from after that scene, the entire story of the film is Michael driven. It's driven through him. And so I think that's really important. And so sometimes people will talk about, you know, well, who's the movie The Godfather? Who's the Godfather? Well, some people say Al Pacino, some people say Marlon Brando. I say the title means both, because it's telling two stories. It's telling the fall of one man, you know, and he's basically, you know, he hands the business over to his son, and then it's his story. And so it takes a dramatic shift. And when you start looking at the movie from that way, you're going to think, man, Mario Puzo and Coppola are like brilliant. These guys came up with an awesome narrative structure. And later in the film, you start to see everybody through Michael's eyes, not like actually in the camera, but, you know, Michael's kind of a rebel, you know, when he comes back from Sicily, and, you know, he's a main man, he's in charge, and no longer do you see Clemenza and Tessio as these big men. You see them as men that are below Michael, because it's not about Vito Corleone anymore and what he thought of Clemenza and Tessio. It's about what Michael thinks of everybody else. He is the new leader of the family, and so I think that's very important. So next time you watch the movie, look at that and see that switch. And also, the last scene of the movie, I think it's one of the most brilliant endings of a movie, is, you know, the scene where, you know, Kay, you know, starts bugging Michael about, is all those murders true? Did he do it? And he says he won't discuss business with her about, you know, and he gets furious. But then he says that one time he'll tell her about, you know, answer whatever question she wants, and he lies to her. And so she walks out, and she's like, oh, I think we both need a drink. Meanwhile, you see Al Neri and Clemenza, and I think it's, I forgot the other one's name, Rocco, walk in, and they start kissing the hand of Michael. And you're like, what? And Diane Keaton's character, Kay, turns around, and she notices, she's like, whoa, what's going on? And you're looking in, on that. And then there's that scene of Al Neri walking over to the door as if he's looking at you, and he's shutting the door. And then the last clip is of Kay and the door shutting. And in my opinion, the movie leaves off on a perfect note. It officially, then, we're cut off from Michael. I feel like that is we were with him through half the movie up until that point, and I think that's when he as a character cut us off. And so the second film, that's why you kind of, the first film you're kind of like rooting for him, but the second film you're like, man, this guy is ruthless. And I think that's why there's a little bit of confusion of what's going on, like plot-wise. It's a lot more complex, because I think we're not seeing the movie through his eyes. We're seeing the movie through the audience's eyes, and because he's shutting us out as a character, and just like how he's shutting his own family out. I think that's very symbolic, that he shuts his wife out at the end of the first movie, and then we're kind of shut out in the second movie. It's like we're part of the family, and so that's why I think at the end of The Godfather Part 2, the scene where he's kind of just sitting by himself, it's been a few years later since the plot and the movie ended, he's older, he's alone. You're not seeing it through his eyes. You're seeing it as, it's like a tragedy. Because it's like if you have a family member who's doing drugs and they're harming themselves, and you sit back and watch them just hurt themselves. You feel bad for them. That's how we feel as the viewers, as his family. And so that's what I really wanted to talk to you about, was the narrative structure of the film and the narrative structure of the second film briefly. So I hope that this little analyzation, it wasn't really as complex as some of the future ones are going to be, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is in the future. I think a few episodes in the future. That one's going to be hard to do, but I really feel like I got some good sources, and it's going to be fun, so keep a lookout for that. I know a lot of you want me to do it, so I'm going to recommend a few things, and then I got to ask you a question. I'm obsessed with this movie, of course you can see by the poster. I also have, which I suggest you pick up, the annotated screenplay of The Godfather. And this is the screenplay, and it has, different, it has the pictures of the production and everything. It's a great book. Then there's this book, The Godfather Legacy, which is basically the behind-the-scenes story of the making of the film, and it's a very good one. And also, I still have the DVD version of the Godfather's trilogy, Francis Ford Coppola restoration. I have a question for you guys. I've heard mixed reviews about the Blu-ray, about which looks better, Blu-ray or DVD. I hear the transfer from some people. I hear the transfer from the Blu-ray, from the DVD to the Blu-ray on this. It's not good, and it's better just to watch it on the DVD. But I've also heard the other one. So before I switch out, I want to know some of y'all's opinions, if you've seen the Blu-ray or not. So, once again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything. I'm starting to talk to a few more of you now personally, and it's been awesome getting to know you guys. And thank you very much for just taking the time to view this video. And look out for in about a week or so for the announcement for the next film I'm going to analyze. And I'm not sure yet what it's going to be, but I'll let you know. Alright guys, take it easy, and I'm going to leave you with this quote like always. There's 3 ways of doing things: the right way, the wrong way, and the chat way. See you guys.